YouTube. It's Brian Phillips. We're gonna open this thing right here. It's a box. Ready? Here we go. All right, guys, what do we have here? It's from FMS. You can probably tell from that. Oh yeah, it is the 64 millimeter F-35 V2. Amazing. We're gonna get into it right now. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we unbox them, build them, and set up the radio. We have the radio back here. We're gonna use the NX10 from Spectrum to set this thing up. Not sure which receiver we're gonna use. Kind of depends on if this thing has a reflex in it or if it is just a plug and play. So as you can see from the box here, some nice artwork on the front. Of course, the F-35 is pretty sweet looking plane. And this is a 64, so it's got fixed landing gear. And what do we have for? It's a new 2840 3900 kV motor, 40 amp Predator ESC. We'll see if it's got thrust reverse. And what do we have? Do we have a full functioning stabilator? I think we do. So we'll look at that. Yeah, it looks like the full functioning stabilators. That's pretty sweet. So super excited. Of course, it's an electric ducted fan. And the latest 64 millimeter ducted fan can achieve more than 800 grams of thrust. Thus the difference in speeds between the V1 and V2 is noticeable. Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, well, it's good. If it's faster, that's generally good. There again, you've got fixed landing gear on a jet. So we'll see if we can get past that. And without further ado, let's pop it up. All right, here we go. All right, slide this thing out. It's a nice looking box. Sometimes the artwork on these boxes doesn't do the plane justice. And this one looks really nice. So super excited to see how it goes together. Man.
It's not a very big box.
No, it's not huge.
Kind of a tight fit.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous actually. But they're gonna, as long as they keep together, I don't mind. Okay, so well packed, obviously. It's got a nice tight fit in the box. Of course, this is the shipping box, and this would be like the retail box if you're buying it at the local hobby shop. But if you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, all you have to do is look no further than the links in the video description below and help get us back for the little bit of time investment we've got in each of these videos, each of these thousands of videos that we've done. Over the course of the years, if you guys are looking for something and this is not the plane you're looking for, you can go to brianphillipsrc.com and we'll help you find it by our sort feature. It's gonna go between type, brand, hobby shop, mom pop shop, whoever we were working with on a particular given product. This stuff is nice, like it's really protective. It's got some thickness to it,
yeah,
which is kind of cool. Okay, so we'll just get that out of the way. Ooh, I love the color.
Yeah, the dark
really
gray
nice.
is really different.
Well, that's the bottom. So we'll see if that carries through. Now, of course, you can belly land this too, so they've done a good job of protecting all that. That's where the electronic speed controller lives. And 9-gram digital servos, it looks like. Are they Metal Gear? I cannot tell. I would assume they're not Metal Gear, or they would have said something. F-35 Lightning II, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, BAE system. Okay, so here's the steerable. It's got one of these goofy linkage things on there. That is a 9-gram digital plastic servo for the steering. And then we have one of these warning labels on an EDF. Still have yet to find a human that has a problem with that in terms of safety, because at the end of the day, if you think about it, you're gonna have to have something extremely long and slender to benefit from that warning. There's the EDF fan. How do we look?
Actually, it's kind of like right there. You could.
Oh wow, yeah, I guess it is. Because the motor will actually spin, so you'll want to be careful. And plus, if you did an afterburner, it'd be super easy to add the afterburner lights on there. Okay, so we're gonna flip this over and just kind of look down the sides and everything. Looks like we've got some kind of poor finish around the edges. If you want to step one to the left, thank you. You can see right here, we've got some untrimmed edges, but the paint's really good. And the decals look nice, except you can see the clear on this. I don't like that. And then of course the nose cone's gonna slip on here. The inlets are really weird on the F-35. Of course, it's got this like stealth shape to it. And so of course they break the panel lines in real life. And I think they do internal housed weapons systems, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and then if I remember right, the gun is kind of like the F-22. It like pops up and shoots out the side. So it's all hidden. So like from a model perspective, it doesn't leave us much to look at, but it's still good because it doesn't leave the radar much to look at for the bad guys. All right, so you can see FMS manual. Always nice to see that. Of course, we'll mostly ignore it, but we will actually go through a little bit of the details on FMS manuals. They are good manuals. Okay, the canopy is like in here. This is kind of a weird packaging. Okay. Nice and clean. Plastic is nice and clear. No pilot figurine though, which is a little bit unusual. Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's got an XT60. I didn't mention that earlier. XT60 for your battery. And it looks like it's probably gonna take about a 2200 4S maybe, but I guess we're gonna find out here in a minute. We have a nose gear. This just like loose packed in here, very weird.
Kind of strange.
Like very weird. And then the vertical stabilizers or the stabilators. I don't know which ones yet. Okay, so the vertical stabilizers. These go in at a bit of an angle as well. So this clear decal, if you don't like the way that looks, if you press it down, it will help a little bit. It helps it to blend, and then it'll also hit the panel lines a little bit nicer. Okay, so we'll do this one next. Okay, so same thing, it's kind of just not tucked in there very good. And if you ever get one that really gives you trouble, take an X-Acto knife and cut things like that, and it will stick down in there. Although I hit that with my thumbnail and stretched it, so it kind of screwed up the decal. So be careful about that. Okay, so just continuing to peel out the rest. Ooh, don't lose that. That's gonna be the plugs for the landing gear that also support the landing gear on the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna keep going. Once I get this foam to protect the foam from the foam over here.
Not a very big nut sack though.
Yeah, I noticed. Nut and bolt sack. Okay, so the nose cone. This is kind of weird because I do not think that's magnetically attached. That is definitely gonna be a glue-on, I bet. Although I can't figure out there. Oh, wait, is that?
Does it? Oh.
I honestly can't tell. If it's magnetically attached, it's not very strong. Yeah, we're gonna have to glue that on. Okay, so just so you guys know, you will have to glue on this model based on what I've seen so far, and we will confirm that as we go. Got the mains in here. Trying to get them out of this pocket here. By the way, if you ever see the foam to protect the foam from the foam, it's probably protecting something inside of the packaging, but I guess I'm gonna come back to the landing gear because I can't get them out. Okay, so we got the wings. Like I said, just kind of a weird packaging technique on this plane. I don't mind it because nothing has come out really damaged that we can tell. Beautiful short little wing.
No kidding.
Looks like plastic reinforcements on the connection points, which is always nice. And then there'll be a connection tube there. And then no missiles or anything on the end. So it makes it, I mean, we've done planes where the tail feathers are that big. So it's kind of cool to see a small wing like that. And also, just to be clear, when you get a smaller wing like this, look at that. We're gonna connect the wings and then it's gonna go in and around.
In there.
That is an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
But good on them for at least using stock servo styles.
You didn't even point out my favorite part.
What? The control horns?
Yes. Already attached.
Okay, so camera crew is really excited about the control horns being installed. And we've got a wing joiner here.
That's really small.
What she said. She's always disappointing. All right, so we're gonna pull this out. And as you can see, we've got a yet to be glued stabilator. Oh. Okay, so stabilator meaning the full functioning stabilator. And I am trying to figure out if there is a reinforcement inside of that hinge. I can't tell.
It doesn't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. It looks like a pinch hinge. Now, we could be mistaken, and that would be a big time points against this plane. Not that you necessarily need it if you have a really heavy duty hinge and you have a small plastic gear servo, you can actually strip your servos just running
it's like
a control.
Thickest pinch hinge ever.
Well, it's not, because look, first of all, that is not symmetrical, which is kind of weird. And it's also not even. It's like 2/3 of the way up.
Yeah.
And that's because this one's gonna glue here and that one's gonna glue there. And that's how they get away with a small package, because all of the stuff that sticks out of the aircraft is gonna be cut off. Okay, you ready? Did they come out?
Nope. Nope.
What the heck is going on with this? I told you I couldn't get them out.
The foam?
No, I don't think so. Oh, you know what? That landing gear is probably supposed to be in with the other landing gear.
Oh, just
okay, so these are mains. Okay, so we've got just a bent steel, very simple plastic wheel with a rock hard. If you grab and squish my...
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
Yeah, I mean, you could hit it with a hammer. It'd probably be softer than concrete.
Probably.
This might be slightly softer than diamond and a little bit harder than concrete. It's somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle.
And a warranty Chinese fighting star. Throw that in the garbage. All right, so there you have it, guys. So the foam to protect the foam from the other foam, that's the stack. And this is the piece count. Doesn't look like a super low piece count, but it doesn't look too bad either. Now keep in mind, when you get some of these planes, they're really hard to build, and when you get some of these planes, they're really easy to build. But just keep in mind, you are gonna have to China glue your plane together. So we're gonna talk about that next. China glue is one of my favorite types of glues. Now, yes, you could use a CA product if you wanted, but I like FMS offering China glue. China glue. This is also a China glue that's made in Europe. Okay, this is foam to foam. It's got an improved adhesive for rapid foam modeling. Or you could just get the stuff from China.
It's a surprise.
This does have warning labels, so if you're curious how to treat this safely, just read another bottle of product. Okay, this is a slightly bigger bottle than the FMS offering. This is 50 milliliters. I think this is 40, something like that. Might be 38, might be 35, could be 20. We're not really sure because it's unmarked. I'm not even sure this is China glue. Could be toothpaste.
Where do they get their China glue from?
But anyway, what I'm trying to say is they sell it on FMS.
Yep.
So when you're buying this model from the links in the video description below, scroll over and get this stuff. It works really nice. Couple things real quick before I open my tube and make a giant mess. When you squeeze these, they're aluminized. Both of these are aluminized, okay? This has a nice thread on it. I know this isn't gonna goop out because I just used it earlier, okay? See that? And you have to pierce the bottle your first go round, okay? So this stuff rarely comes dry in the tubes, okay? Same thing with the foam to foam. The reason we show both of these products is because I like both of them. Now, why am I not showing CA? Because CA dries out in the tubes. I put it in all the different apparatus I've had in the basement. See, it's already coming out, okay, a little bit. This one you don't have to open, but if you look deep into the tip, there is a pointy thing. That pointy thing is gonna depress that glue back into the hole, okay? But these aluminized tubes, meaning when you squish it, it kind of like keeps its shape, and so it forces the glue out and can tend to make a big mess. Now, this stuff is more tacky than this, foam to foam, okay? But they both work. They both work well. It's just that I found that because they're both technically supposed to be contact adhesives, you're supposed to glue two surfaces, let it set up a little bit, and then stick them together, and they will not come apart, okay? You'll probably rip the foam first. And the same is true for this. Both of these will break down with kicker, okay? So let's say you have a beautiful F7F, right? And you need to glue something here. So you use this, you glue back together, and then later use a little kicker to activate some CA to hold this thing in. Well, that kicker, if it runs into the crack where you had like fixed a broken seam or something like that, it will and can and will break down China glue, okay? Also, if you get this all over your fingers and you don't roll it off in time like a booga, then you can use CA kicker to actually set that up. Now, just to prove to you that I have CA, because I know you guys are like, whatever, Brian, you don't have CA. Yes, I do. I have it right here.
He just doesn't want to
This is not foam safe. This is thin foam safe. This is thicker foam safe, okay? We have links to all this stuff. I like BSI. No, we're not sponsored by any BSI brands, but that's what I use, which is pretty stupid since we work with a bunch of different awesome brands, and I'm sure the stuff that they offer is just as good, if not better. but we have been really happy with BSI products. They're branded in a million different brands, and so we have links. So if you want to buy one and help support Brian Phillips RC and what we do for the RC community, that's the way you can do it. All right, getting back to the point, we need to get this thing glued together. Now, if you don't already have a plane stand, you might want to have a plane stand. This is my Robart plane stand. It's been used and abused for a long time. It's held up really good. I think that came as a gift from somebody because I was too cheap to get it, and I probably should have got it because it's like 20 bucks or something like that. It might be 30 bucks now. Maybe it's 100 bucks now, but it doesn't matter if it was $200. You need to have one, and it's a lot better than cutting holes in your wife's blankets.
Yep, thought of that just last night. And they were out of stock for quite a while, but they are back in stock right now. So
oh, by the way, when you get this, take some talcum powder, baby powder, or cornstarch, and lube your tubes, and then you'll be able to quickly and easily adjust this. See how easy that was? If I would have tried to do that when this was brand new, I probably would have broke the granite. You know, the granite. Trying to slide that, okay? So you see how easy that is now? Okay, you can believe me now. Okay, here we go. Oh, and then you can adjust these things to make up for different shapes or sizes. And yeah, there are times it works pretty terrible. And then other times it works amazing.
For the most part, yeah.
All right, so one other thing that you're gonna notice about Brian Phillips RC when we do stuff on camera is we always work in our workshop here. Designated film space and workshop. I'm sorry, I meant to say kitchen.
I was gonna say you walked over there 3 times and you didn't get a Q-tip.
Well, I've for different reasons. Okay, so I have a Q-tip here. This is a run-of-the-mill, clean your ear type of Q-tip.
It's actually not a Q-tip. It's not
Q-tip. This is a Walmart brand.
Cotton swab.
We're gonna have links to that in the video description below.
We're not.
I'm just kidding, we're not. All right, so China glue. No, I'm not gonna take the paint off. If the paint comes off and the nose cone comes off as a result, I will laugh as you laugh. Okay, look, China glue, okay? It's on there, right? So now watch what happens after I do this. I'm gonna just stick it in there and just give her a slather. Now, admittedly, you could just like not do anything else and stick it together and it'd probably work. But I'm gonna go ahead and do this for extra complexity and to make the video slightly longer because we need to try to make our videos longer.
Yeah, we're running short on.
YouTube is very concerned. They're like, you're not quite to feature motion picture length yet.
We're way past that.
Well, on this video. Oh, just this one. Okay, so we've got that. Now, if you could just stay out of the light there, camera crew. You see what's happening? I'm just spinning in the octagonal area. Then I'm gonna hit this little surface, but I'm not gonna go right to the edge because this stuff does tend to get a little bit puffed up over its curing process, okay? So just let that sit, okay? That's how you do that.
Wow.
It's glued together. I can go on to the next thing. Also, on these plane stands, you'll notice there's one other thing. If you have back problems like most people do, then all you have to do is turn it the other direction so you can lean into the counter,
so it's not
which
so
is
far
what
away.
I didn't do. Also, when you glue things together on airplanes, it's always a good idea to read the instructions before you do it instead of waiting until after you've screwed it up. So I'm gonna not read the instructions just to help prove a logical point, okay?
Perfect.
So I did dry fit the part, okay? If you're really concerned about this thing holding together, you can take that paint off. I used to do that, complete waste of time. If you guys decide to do it, I'm not trying to pick any fights with anybody, but the truth is we built hundreds of planes. I fly them like I mean it. And I even run into trees from time to time just to prove how well I glued them together. But the truth is I've never really had a big problem with the component pulling out. I've never had that problem. So as you can see here, we've got glue. I'm just gonna share the glue and give it a little quick rub off. You guys see that? Watch this. Oh yeah.
Wow,
that's how you know it's working.
Fast.
Yeah, it'll get super sticky. Okay, so now we've got a V tail. V for victory. Okay, so you can see how that works, right? Now that, we could just leave that, but since I tacked it up so fast, I guarantee you we're gonna be a little bit short, and so I'm gonna go ahead and put just a little bit more glue on there. and I'm gonna come in here. Now, do you guys see what I did there? This is just more glue training, okay? So look, oh wow, now I can actually do that. That's kind of handy, isn't it? You see that? Once you've tacked it up, sometimes you're gonna find that it's really difficult to get a part apart. You see how that makes a twist? Yummy, right? Okay. So you get this like spider webby thing. That stuff can make a mess of the surface here. Take a rag, put a little kicker on there, Insta-set on like a paper towel, wipe off just a little bit. It will come right off. Okay. While we let this sit, we're gonna come back to the nose cone. Okay, nose cone is all set up, ready to go. I mean, get them an ultra close up of this. See, I can barely press it on there, and I'm not joking.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, it's like,
it's on there.
If I could hang on to that better with my human flesh, then I would hold the whole plane's weight by this, because the truth is I could hold the plane by this. In fact, I don't even have it on there square. The reason I wanted to demonstrate adding more glue to this is it will loosen the glue connection and yet still set up, okay? So if you need, like let's say you did this. You did this and you got that all spread out and you waited too long, but you couldn't get full penetration of your wing, then what you can do is you can re-slather a little bit more glue and it will lubricate the connection. And then once everything has had a chance to cook off, it's gonna then connect, okay? All right, so you'll also notice that I am waiting to do those last. Why? I don't know, I just am guessing that that's the way I want it done, okay? So I've got these vertical stabilizers. I wanna kinda go in the order I did it, okay? So you can see these things are super tacked already, and I've even got little boogers. That's perfect, okay? So now I wanna just make sure those boogers are rolled onto the inside there. Okay, so now I can slide this in. Now, why do I wanna make sure they're rolled on the inside? If you come to this angle, you can see there's a little bit there. Oh, I just feel like we're blocking the light really bad today. Maybe it's just in my head. Is it in my head or is it not? Okay. Okay, so now that's down. Okay.
It's a good fit.
Yeah, it's got a nice firm fit, a lot of pressure. I don't like the lack of depth. I'd like to see a little more depth because, I mean, there's just not much to work with there, you know? Okay, so what I'm doing is I don't want to press really hard because you'll dent this stuff. So I'm trying to spread out my hand as much surface area as possible to cram it in the hole, okay? So now I've crammed it in the hole. I'm just gonna give it a quick look and make sure I've got them all the way seated. That's gonna give us good penetration. Now, I could hold that by the wing, but I'm just gonna spare myself the heartache of being wrong that one time. Now, flipping the plane over. As you can see, the China glue works really good. It's super easy to use. It's inexpensive. I think those tubes are like $5.
Yeah, just get one every couple of planes.
Get one every couple of planes.
You got it with it.
Or get like 4 at one time and they won't go bad like the Hobby King stuff comes dry in the tubes if you bought it 3 years ago like I do. Okay, here it is. So I'm gonna do the face and I'm gonna do the base, okay? Why do I know how to do that? Because I'm guessing. Face and then the base, okay? Now, there's another train of thought. Rather than slathering it with a tool, you can just take your naked part, okay, and just stick it into the glued area and then let it kind of poop out and around and just kind of work it a little bit. And that, believe it or not, does work really nicely, but I want to get a little bit on that face too, okay? Then once you have it kind of slathered around, okay, and I'm just trying to be careful not to have this flip off of here, okay? Once you have it slathered on, you can peel this back, and if that string starts giving you trouble like that, just grab it, put it on your hand, and then we can just rub it off. Give it a quick rub off, okay? All right, so then we already glued that side, so we should be able to come in and do the same thing, give this a couple of rocks. I'm gonna just dip that in just a hair. Okay, good. And then you can see I got a little bit on the front there, which is not ideal because I want to get rid of that. So I'll show you how to get rid of that. Now you can just leave it there, but it's gonna pull away. No, see, eventually, like I was trying to demonstrate there, the cam crew almost caught it. You guys see this? Okay, so we got a little extra here. So I'm just gonna walk that off of there. and just spin it up into the Q-tip. All right, so simple enough. Now we can set this down so that it doesn't get all over the counter. And if you decide you want to do more glue, you can always add more glue, but you can't take it off. So be mindful about the way you use it. Now also, when you get these imprecise fits, like this is a pretty imprecise fit, you're gonna have to squish those parts together, okay? They will not automatically totally touch all the contact areas, but you'll wanna just, when you dry fit them, that's a good time to tell where everything is gonna touch. Are you even showing the people the side I'm spreading the glue on? Okay, see that? So that edge will show up, it's gonna come out and be ugly. So I'm just gonna peel off that little teeny bit. And it's actually easier once you're done putting two components together. All right, so as you can see, pretty easy glue process. And what I'm doing is I'm giving myself, 30 seconds or a minute for this chemical to react in air, okay? Once it reacts in air, then it's gonna get really tacky, okay? And so, yeah, and like this, you can see we're missing glue all the way along that face. We got a little bit inside, but I'm gonna probably go and reinforce this just a hair. And only because I wanna make sure we get, it's such an imperfect fit here. I'm just gonna hit that edge, but I'm gonna be more careful when I apply it so that I don't make a giant gloppy mess, okay? Now, since I put a lot on there, I can come into this one and just kinda slather it along. And then same thing here. That one actually that face got covered a little bit better. Okay. All right, so that's pretty good. And then I'm just gonna slather just a little bit there. You guys can see what I'm talking about. Once it starts tacking up and turns to the spider webs like that, then you're getting really close. Okay, so in my case, I think we're good to go. All right, so we'll just slide that into position. And if I were to do nothing else, it would probably just lean back, okay? But I haven't even press fit this. I'm gonna put my hand in front of the center of mass here and just kind of press this in. Now, some of you are probably thinking to yourself, but that's a pretty important, that's a crucial structure. How are you gonna guarantee that that stays there? Well, to be honest with you, I've got 2 ages of glue. One age and then a little bit older. So the older one, excuse me, this is older, this is fresher. The fresher stuff is gonna goop out quick, and that's gonna help fill the gap. The older stuff is gonna tack it in place right away. Cause like right now, look, I mean, it's hard to imagine. I mean, I'm really pulling on that hard. I'm yanking the whole plane, guys. So it's pretty well set to where it's gonna be in position. I just don't know if it's square the way I want. So we're gonna come back to that after a minute or two, okay? So glue here, a little bit of glue there. I kind of did miss one spot there, right on the inboard portion there. So I'm just gonna go just a little teeny bit of glue. And then of course I get a little bit excessive, and then so I'll just peel that off real quick, okay? So then same thing here. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this into position. I try to go right into the corner, otherwise it might stick prematurely before it gets all the way seated back. It's an awkward part to glue. I don't like gluing this. I mean, it's manageable, but it's still kind of awkward, to be honest. But, I mean, that makes the package a lot smaller.
Well, and I feel like on this size of a plane. Oh, no. You got too excited. What are you going to do with that?
See, that's the problem is I'm just going to put it on this paper towel. But that's one of the problem with these aluminized tubes. I was explaining that earlier. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't cap it off right away, or if you're like anal retentive like me, and you're like, I'm gonna make this tube like neat. The next time you go to open this, it's just gonna like spray across the room and like hit the wall.
Yeah. Okay, but I was saying before your glue got excited, I feel like having that fully functioning, was that a stabilator? Is unusual on this size of a plane. But by gluing those on, then they can make the package smaller, right? So
yeah, but I mean, you could have made it hinged too and just had a hinge you throw in or something. I don't know. I mean, it's not that big. It's not like a deal breaker at all. It's just more a matter of, it's kind of a critical surface, and I like the factory to do critical parts wherever possible. And I know that it sounds kind of stupid because we have a lot of critical parts that the factory doesn't do on models. Oh, and by the way, I got that glue, so check this out. You remember my excited glue?
Yeah.
So check this out. So excited it stuck to my rag. So here's what's gonna happen. I need to use up this glue a little bit, and I'm assuming that this is gonna have to necessarily be managed somehow. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this and just put a little bit of slather of sticky stuff on it. Yep. Then I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna run it along the side. You're on the absolute backward side of where you need to be.
I know, but your hands are in the way over here.
Well, at least the entire airplane frame isn't in the way. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually get a little bit more glue because that looks like that's gonna work pretty good. See guys, I'm just gonna slather it right on the tip of the Q-tip again. I'm just using the same end that already got gooped on earlier, because then if I make a mistake, I can use the other one to clean it up. And this is just a super quick and dirty way for cable management. If you ever run into a situation, try to keep it contained to just the one side, and then you can come back around and just take off the super excess, because I did get kind of a lot on there. Okay. And the idea is, once you get that on there, you can let that tack up just a little bit. That's kind of a lot, folks. Whatever you saw me put on there, you want to put a little bit less if you can. Okay. So you can either let that tack up, or you can just go to town and just get her glued down. So why am I doing that? Because then that's going to be out of the way. Okay. And you don't have to cut a slit or anything like that. A lot of times I'd cut a slit for something like this, but it's so thin right here. It's probably going to be a 1/4 inch thick. So there's just not much material there. And then it's going to be out of the way of where the battery is going to get loaded, because you can tell that the battery is going to load right there. And obviously that's going to be problematic for us if we don't do something about it. All right, so now that we've glued everything together, let's check the manual to see if we screwed it up. Okay. Linkage rods installs for both clevis and ball head links. Okay. Ball head and clevis.
Yeah, we usually ignore that page.
Okay.
But I already did it.
We don't have a ball head. We have a clevis.
Okay.
Okay, so we don't have to mess with that. All right, so what are we, 700 millimeters. It's small, like I said. 40 amp ESC, 9 gram servos, 5 of them, 920 grams, just a hair. Yeah, they said medium CA. Yeah, no thanks. Okay, so stick the rod in there. That all looks pretty good. Horizontal tail install. Horizontal tail installation.
That looks like a wing.
Horizontal tail install. Goodness. That would be over here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we're supposed to, yeah, we pretty much are almost done. So we go outside hole to outside hole, and then outside hole to outside hole. Okay, already done. Yeah. So yeah, like I thought, gonna be a pretty simple build. Ooh, what do we need for a battery?
That should be at the very beginning. Did we miss it?
I don't know. 2200.
Okay.
3S. Okay, 2200 3S, folks. 2200 3S 30C Gen 1. Okay? Excuse me, Gen 2, rather. Gen 2 smart packs. Now, why am I using these? Are they high enough C rating? They don't call out the C rating.
Actually, it says 25C.
Good. So we should be good to go. So for 30C, 30 is greater than 25. Okay? So for those of you that don't know what this all stands for, 2200 milliamp hours stands for each of the cells. There's 3 of them in here. You can tell that by 3S. So it's 3 cells in series, so not 3C, because we're already doing 30C down here. And then there's charge rates that's also spoken to by C. Okay? So we can charge this at 5C, not to be confused with 30C. 5C means 5 times 2200 milliamp hours. So 2.2 amps times 5 would be 11 amps, okay? So you can charge this at 11 amps and it will be safe to do so. It's also probably a little bit harder on the batteries to go that fast, but at any rate, the IC3 connection with that extra data line there in the center is not necessarily the same as an XT60, but guess what? They'll plug together. We'll prove it to you later if you have any doubts. I know you probably don't if you're watching this video, but the truth is 2200 3S 30C Smart Pack Gen 2 should be a pretty good pick for this plane. The only problem is we might need to have a balance lead so we can put in a voltage alarm, okay? So if you want full range telemetry or full telemetry, then you can actually take out the Predator ESC and put an AV in, and you can do some cool things with thrust reverse and save some channels if you want, because you can use above the 6 pluggable channels. Now, let's talk about channels while I wait on this glue to dry for just a second longer. I'm gonna quick check this with the plane upright. You wanna come around and show the people what I'm doing? Okay, so right here, this one was sagging. See the gap there? I went in and pulled this up, and then I'm gonna do the same thing here. Pull this up, and then I'm also just gonna quickly push this down and quickly push this down so we can tell it's basically in place. Now, sometimes if I have a plane that I'm not sure about, I'll take and hold the stabilator down, and I will push this into position and pin it with like a toothpick, okay? Now, I don't think I'm gonna do that on this plane because I feel like it's actually got pretty good purchase, but you can see how if that little block slips down like this over time, guess what's gonna happen to the elevator? It's gonna change the position of the elevator. Now, let's say just one side peels down, but the other side doesn't. What that's gonna do to your trims is that you're gonna have one stabilator that wants to move up or down relative to where it was before. And then you're gonna have a roll, and or if you have both of them drop, then you'll have a lift or a nose down, okay? So any of which would be bad. So you wanna keep an eye on that. My experience with foam to foam or with FMS's China glue or even with Fuselage, which is Hobby King's offering, is that after you get it stuck together and you get those initial sags, you're gonna be pretty much set because it gets extremely tacky after just a few hours to the point where you're not taking it apart. But it might still bulge a little bit if you have a lot in there, okay? We'll show you how to deal with that later after some of it starts poking out, if it does. Do we have any there?
No, not on this side.
We have a tiny, teeny bit over here, like barely any. Let's show them. So what I was talking about, you see right there? You can barely see it. Okay, watch this. This is how you get rid of that. Oh, son of a biscuit. See that? That stuff, I didn't realize I had fresh glue on there because we just had a little bit we cleaned up. I thought this was tacked up already, but if it's not, you can actually do this. And you're like, really? That's how you do that? Yeah, well, you can. Now watch. I can go in here and I can clean that off. And what'll happen is it'll actually peel from what's left in the seam there. And while it's still kind of halfway fresh, it'll come off real easy and usually doesn't take off paint. Sometimes it does if you're not careful. So use your best judgment. If you think it's gonna take that paint, maybe don't do this, okay? Because that will look ugly and it's hard to touch up, okay? So you guys see what I'm talking about? Now it's just peeling it right out. And you can do that with any of the spots where that you'll get a bubble of glue. Same thing with the nose cone, everything looks good. I'm just gonna press that back on. Feels totally fine.
I think you need to scooch it forward just a little bit because I feel like your tail, the plane, I feel like your tail heavy on the stand.
Okay.
That's better.
Well, it's gonna be worse now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So once we flip this over, the camera crew is concerned because it is tail heavy, necessarily. Now, looking at the bottom, we're just gonna investigate our glue joints again. So you can see right here, there's a pretty sizable gap there. And I don't think there's a whole lot we can do about that. I think that's just the way it is. So if you get a little bit that comes out, you see what I just did there? You can just peel that right out right now. It'll make it look really nice. And just get rid of anything that's right up on the surface. See that right there? Just peeled it right out. Okay, same thing here. This one's the one I was most nervous about because I got quite a bit on the edge. But you see how nice that comes out? It's like it wasn't even there. And if you do this now, it'll come out nice and clean. You guys see how it just kind of peels the booger out, and then you just spin your Q-tip and it pulls out a little bit from the seam. Usually doesn't go that deep, but it did pretty deep that time. There you have it.
Wait, well, you still got that right down here on this end.
Oh yeah, that's one of those balls.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna roll in, and that's still kind of wet, so it's a little bit premature for that. Now, if you get one that dries and you've got like a ball sticking out, you can take needle nose pliers and just rip it off. It'll come off and it should do fine. All right, so we can either put the landing gear on or wings next. I think we should do wings.
Okay.
So how do I tell which one's which? I grab one and see if it's right. And it's usually a pretty obvious thing. Okay, so we'll slide in this rod, the joiner, wing joiner rod, or carbon fiber wing spar. Slide this through. Now I'm gonna lift this wire up and out just a hair. Okay, I'm gonna take this off and do it a different way because it's wanting to fight me. It's like maybe just a super small alignment, or maybe I got a ball of foam in my way.
Yeah, because you're not poking through.
It's going.
Yep.
Now, this is carbon fiber, so you don't want to get those fibers in your skin. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper towel, and I normally don't have to push so hard, but I'm going to push hard. There it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit of glue or something?
Chunk of foam.
Okay. Ooh.
It's like glued in there.
You guys see what I'm talking about there? Like I couldn't tell what was going on. All right, so now that that's pressed in, I'm gonna push it evenly. That's much harder than it would normally be. Normally they slide through. Okay, so now I'm gonna slide this on. And then once we get that started, should be able to lift this wire up and just push it into where it's eventually going to connect. Now I want the brown to be up. So I'm gonna plug in my brown with brown. And just, you know, the alignment matters. Okay, so that brown is your signal ground. The red is your plus voltage. In our case, it's BEC voltage, probably 5 volts, might be 5.5. And then this is signal. So I'm gonna bury this. Now, why do I care what color goes up? Well, I want it to look as nice as possible, of course. Now this, I'm gonna peel up just a little bit. I'm gonna push this connector down into the socket. And I'm just gonna make a decision if I wanna try to glue this or not. Okay, so you can see we have quite a bit of extra still. So that means I'm gonna have to walk this back all the way till here. Then eventually we're gonna pull that slack into the aircraft, okay? And I don't know if that's gonna be as easy said as done, but I wanna see if I can get this thing walked back. That inside bend's gonna be a real pain in the neck. Because yeah, like what are you supposed to do with the excess otherwise?
Right.
It really is not a good way to do it, is there?
Would it help if you had the wing screwed on?
Maybe. I don't think it will.
Okay.
For length of the wire.
Right.
But it's just more a matter of like what do you do with the excess?
Right. Because it seems like there's quite a bit.
There's a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna try to, if you see that rolling and you've got a free hand, stop it from spinning on me. Okay, and I don't know if I've said this before, but if you're building these models alone, there are rare circumstances where it's really handy to have a second set of hands, but most of the time you can do the whole build yourself. The only reason we work together is because she's holding the camera crew, my wife, Megan. And I am, you know, usually turning a screwdriver or playing with my tube, spraying sticky stuff all over. That's awkward. Just gonna press that down. And as you can see, it's not really going together very well. So I'm gonna flip this thing over. I'm gonna lay it back down so I can get to it. And I am gonna work on getting this wing tightened in first. I was thinking we might have to do that, but I didn't know. Okay, so going into the nut and bolt sack here. If you guys didn't know why they staple these Ziploc bags, it's because when the Ziploc bag breaks open and they get bolts going everywhere, then people don't get their planes and they're pissed off. So they do that, which is probably a good thing to do. Okay, so we have some screws here. We have the covers for the landing gear, so we'll just lay those here, and then we've got the linkages for the elevators or stabilators, and then the nose gear. Okay, and then just a bag. That'll be a good one to keep forever.
Yes, definitely. Been needing a few hundred more bags.
Okay, evidently I can't open Ziplocs today. All right, so we've got that opened. And as you can see, we've got some Phillips ones, and then we have more Phillips ones, and then we have the machine screws. We need the machine screws. So there should be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that means there's one extra. 2 millimeters is probably the size we're dealing with, and yes, we are. Okay, so I'm gonna take the machine screw. I wanna put it in here. Now this is a real easy bolt together assembly and glue. Do you remember that one we got from FMS not too long ago?
Yeah.
what did they say, like 100% bolt together?
Yeah, they claimed bolt together all over the place, and then we glued a ton of stuff.
Yeah, that one was annoying. Okay, so this one is not lining up worth a darn. So, and I think part of the problem is I am having a hard time getting the pressure. Once I get pressure on it, then it's good. It goes right in. Okay, so get that torque down. Then this one, I need to press it. So put your hand right here, please. Hold it. Okay, there we go. Got it. Then you can let go. Okay, so that's tightened down. So now we're gonna see if we can get the wire taken care of. Because that was why we did that, guys, was just so we could get the wire taken care of. Whoops, gotta flip it around so I can see. Yeah, that's just the way it's gonna be, by the way.
Yeah, it is just a little bit awkward.
This plane is just a different design.
Now you can fight that wire easier.
I don't really think it's any easier at all. It's just where it is. Okay. So I don't want to cut the cable. I'm being super careful. And I'm just like really not liking this whole wanting to fall off thing. But there's nowhere to lay it because the tail is the last thing.
I can...
Okay, so just put one hand up here.
Okay. Try and focus with one hand.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to slide this in. It's just not wanting to really go in very well. I could glue this up and then it would stay in there as soon as I get it in. Kind of like I did to that first cable up front. You guys can see kind of what's going on. It's squiggling on me. Okay, so once you get this pushed in, you're probably thinking to yourself, how the heck are you going to get that excess in there? Well, I'm just going to press it in and hope to God it goes. Okay, you can let go now. Okay, so there's two aileron cables. You can see that's not pressed in all the way. I see the elevator cables and the aileron cables. I'm gonna see if I can pull on the extension cord and see if it comes in. My guess is it probably will not. Yep, I got one of them. You guys see what I'm doing here? It's rather awkward and kind of a pain in the butt. Also, if you guys are planning on setting up flap-arounds or something like that, then you're gonna have to probably unglue stuff to get to it, which is not cool in my opinion, because these wires are gonna have to go back under this cover. You have to unglue that whole dang thing just to separate your two wires. Because if you do flap-arounds, you have to control these independently of each other, okay? And to me, that's kind of a miss on FMS's part and any other manufacturer that doesn't let us do flap-arounds. And I think what happens is that these manufacturers just assume the majority of people aren't gonna wanna do flap-arounds, and that's just a misread if you ask me. Now, there are planes that don't have flaps, and I complain less about them. And there are planes that I really want flaps on, and I do complain about them. And sometimes you might think it's a little bit of an unfair thing that I do. The truth is, some planes need flaps, other planes don't. I do not know how this plane is gonna do with or without flaps, but I can tell you this. It's got a near full length aileron, so that'd be a good candidate in my opinion for flap-arounds, okay? All right, so we'll lay this plane upside down or right side up now, finally. We're gonna put the other wing on. Of course, the other wing should be the exact same process, but I'm gonna have to flip it over here in a second. Okay, so once we get this started, you can see how there's a nut zert in this plastic, so it's really nice. It makes it easy to bolt together once you get it all lined up. Of course, it's not wanting to line up worth a dang. Jeez. Do you see that?
Yeah, that was...
That is not... Oh. Well, it would have been nice if somebody would have mentioned it came out of the hole wrong. Okay, well, I'm going to take this wing off now.
Well, can you just take it out, take this bar out from this side?
Well...
Push it back through?
I could if it goes... I guess if it goes in straight, I could. But you guys see what happened? This didn't line up. I'm glad we noticed it. I have no idea if it's lining up or not. Okay, I gotta take the other wing off. We'll pause and do that. All right, so while we were off camera, I put a little bit of glue on this cable. And so we let that set for a second. We were cleaning some foam off the ground and stuff. And I was able to get the rod through. I just kind of had to wiggle on it and it went right through from the other side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press this back in. Now that we got a little bit of glue on there, it should be quite a bit easier. And so my apologies for trying to cut corners on that. I probably should have just done that in the first place. And it does make it a little bit messier to put in, but I think you'll be satisfied with the end result, which is you don't have to fight it quite as much. Once you get your length figured out, it's pretty easy to put in. Okay, so as you can see, you just kind of walk it in. Camera crew is gonna spot me in case the plane flips up. Just gonna put it in like that. So then this is one of those times where when you're putting this in, there's a high probability you're gonna get glue where you didn't really want to have it. And so that trick we used on the back of the plane earlier will come in handy because you can see it's kind of coming off even on my fingers. And there's a little bit there. But if you get it while it's fresh, it's very easy, rarely takes off paint. Hey, you need to not move that. Just like hold still and spot it in case it pops off. Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm just sliding that in. There it goes. Okay, so pretty annoyed with this paint being ripped off here. That drives me crazy. Not gonna lie. Okay, so just pressing this in very carefully and sideways with the tip of a flat-bladed screwdriver. Now, if it made a mess on yours like it did on mine, I'm gonna take and just had a little bit of, that's how I spread it on here. So now I'm gonna just work backward and just peel that out, just like we did on the back. And as you can see, that'll take off that little bit of material. Now keep in mind, if you're belly landing this, you do want this to be somewhat secured because, you know, like it's gonna be belly landing and it's gonna rub along the ground. So, you know, I'm not really worried about the wire getting damaged as much as I am worried about catching something with it. And so you wanna take just a few seconds if you can and try to make sure that it gets into a position where it's gonna be satisfactory, okay? Gosh, look at that. I lost paint there too. That is so frustrating. I mean, granted, I warned you that that can happen too, so. See, you just take off that little bit of stickiness. It does look a lot nicer when it's all said and done though, except for there and there. By the way, I found that it's always been difficult to match these colors. And gray colors are always challenging. I don't know why. There's just like a million different types of gray. I mean, for God's sake, look at this. There's one gray, there's two grays. There's only two grays here. Oh, there's three grays, and then there's black and white as well. And then of course the decal colors. All right, so now that we have that done, I'm gonna flip the plane back over so that I can do the backside. Now at least if it falls, it'll fall onto the table instead of off the counter. All right, so we're gonna put this wing on. So we know for sure we're gonna have to peel this back. We don't know how far though, so I'm not gonna go any further than I need to get the job done. We're gonna line this up. Yep, goes in just fine now. It actually fits better than the other one. So that's handy. I am gonna go ahead and get the screws in there first. Would like to see a plastic tailpipe because that is really cool looking, but it's not gonna hold up well to the elements of a normal flying environment, at least in my expectation. Because when you go to take off, the stabilators are gonna be pulled back and I bet you're gonna drag that still. And then also, when you belly land, you're gonna get all sorts of scraping on the bottom. I tend to do a lot more wheels up, wheels down kind of flying, in case you guys haven't noticed that, because I enjoy it. That's part of the reason why I'm concerned about flaps. If you're just doing belly landings on this, you don't really need that. Oh, and by the way, you know what I just noticed?
What?
The yellow wire on the Predator ESC, which means we should have thrust reverse, but that does take up a channel. So you see this throttle? See how there's one more wire there? This wire, okay, hold on. That says throttle. This is signal, then power, then ground, and then signal only for thrust reverse. That is if it's the same as other Predator ESCs we've worked with in the past.
Yeah.
Should be.
But since we don't have flaps or gear,
we'll be fine.
yeah.
And we'll talk about the number of channels and all that good jazz here in a minute, so don't get too excited there, camera crew.
Well, and sometimes you talk about flaps, and sometimes a plane doesn't demand flaps, but our runway does.
Right, because we have a short runway, and we have a tight approach because of the trees on both ends. Now, you guys might not have that problem. I don't really see it as a big problem. It's just something we have to deal with. Okay, so you see this? Come around here so they can see what I'm doing here. See this? I twisted that because I want brown going up, okay? And then I'm gonna tuck that down in there just nicely. Okay, now this, obviously we got way too much. Okay, so I know I gotta pull this back. And while it's out, I'm gonna get glue on there, but I don't wanna put a bunch of glue on it until I know about how long it's gonna need to be. So I'm gonna take and just yeah, we'll be close. We'll be close. And now I know what I need to pull on to get it through. So I'll show you this whole process this time. China glue, open the lid. Once you open the lid, I'm gonna go into it, just get a little bit out into the tip and then pick it up. About one big drip should be plenty to do this little wire. And we're gonna be going up and down the length of this wire. I like doing both sides. It does make it sometimes a little bit messy, but you know what? It's not a big deal. You can get the stuff on your fingers and you can get it back off pretty easy. Okay. So just a little bit of spreading. And then I'm gonna just go on the other side with my dirty Q-tip. Okay, and that should spread it out plenty for what we're trying to do. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to have a little bit of tack to it, okay? So once you've got that tack, then I can go in here, find my ailerons, and then I know which Y cable I'm gonna be pulling on. Yep, it's this one. So I have that figured out. Now I'm gonna just work this into the crack. While the glue is still fresh, makes it pretty easy. If you wait for it to tack up, it's a little bit more challenging.
Put a hand on top.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You see how it's sticking to me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I need to come back in with a screwdriver and try to make this tight 90-degree seam. That seam is a real pain in the neck. Okay, so remember, I don't want to damage the cable. That's my number one priority, is to not damage the cable. So as I press this in, I have to be careful not to separate that cable by pressing too hard with a flat-bladed screwdriver, which then quickly becomes a knife, okay? Okay, so just pressing this down in there, pressing it down in there, and then pushing this down for a little deeper penetration, okay? Now I can come back through, find my aileron Y cable. Definitely not that side. Okay, so I'm just pulling that in. See, and the funny thing is, once you get that glue on there, even if it's set up, it's just once you get it into the crack, it's gonna basically find one side or the other and it's gonna stick to it, which is kind of handy. Okay. And these are the steps that, like, you look at them in a manual like, oh, well, that's going to be easy. That's going to be easy. And you know what, guys? Those are the steps that you're like, why is there always a stupid step like that on every build?
Always there.
There's always one.
Yep.
And I shouldn't say there's always one, because to be honest with you, we haven't been having those lately. And that's part of the reason why we generally like working with FMS and with the other brands that we've partnered with, because we don't have a ton of steps like that where we get cornholed into doing stupid things because of poor design. And that's why we stopped working with, because they were terrible.
Maybe by V3 or 4, they'll have that wire.
I don't know about all that.
Figured out.
I'm kind of guessing they'll have the exact same design on it. And that's one thing that's a little bit frustrating. Yeah, because like here it is now, I'm peeling off a little bit of gray. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, just leave the glue. It's not that big a deal, Brian. Yeah, it's, you know, to me, It's a big deal. It just drives me nuts. I'm like, this thing's brand new. I want it to look perfect. I haven't had a chance to crash it into a tree yet, therefore it should look perfect. And I think that's a fair position to take as RC pilots. I mean, you pay good money for these things and you want them to be in good shape. If I crash it, if I scratch it up, if I run into a wall with it while I'm walking out, that's on me. But the thing is, I don't want the assembly to facilitate damage of the aircraft. That annoys me. And this little stupid spot is gonna drive me nuts. In fact, show them the spot really close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got an idea.
Okay.
I got an idea. The idea is gonna work too. So guys, if you don't have a million different markers to pick from, markers are usually a good happy medium on this. What the heck color is that?
Green. The color in the middle.
Oh, it's green. Is there not a silver in here?
I don't think we have a silver anymore.
I thought we had a silver. What the heck? I feel like I've wronged our audience. I was all excited about being able to cover that up. So now the other thing you can do is you can use black or you can use a pencil.
We could grab, in the girls' room, her kit, because she's got like
They have a million colors. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna try and just see if this works. Because this is black, it should be pretty dark. But the problem is white shows up so dang good, but you see what just happened? Look at that. Almost a perfect match, okay?
Yeah.
So I basically just touched it with the black, okay? Let some of that black ink come off, and then I just swiped it. Swiped it just a hair.
You're going to have to do this little corner too.
Yep, okay. See, and that's the thing, guys. You can be as OCD as you want when you're building these models, because it's your model, you get to be that. Now, if you think it's a waste of time, I don't blame you. I understand there's gonna be people that are fine with that because they're gonna be flying off of a gravel runway or maybe off of grass ops all the time, 100% of the time. But in my case, especially with scale aircraft, it irks me to have stupid little problems like that when they're brand new. If it was after a crash, then I tolerate it better.
Yeah.
All right, so while we've got it upside down, you want to get gear on? Yes, you do. Okay?
Totally.
So landing gear look like this. If you put them back here, you're going to have a longer wheelbase, but you're going to pivot later. My guess is they're supposed to go forward. The drawings might show the claves. Do they show? Do they show? Do they show?
Yep.
That's pretty dang ambiguous. Okay, listen, this is what we're doing. We're putting them so that they face forward. Why are we doing that? Because then the pivot will be closer to the center of gravity. That's important because if you get too far back, you have to be practically flying before the elevator goes live. If you're near the pivot point, then you can use the elevator to help flare on landings better too, okay? Now these things are pretty simple. There's an offset. This little half moon shape goes toward whatever direction your landing gear is, okay? Now these are just regular Phillips screws that go in here. They're machine style, like not machine style. They're like a wood style or a plastic style. Camera crew's gonna show you this one. That's what we're using right now, folks. I'm gonna grab myself a 3mm drive, see if that's, nope, I'm gonna go up to 4. 4mm Phillips. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, 4mm Phillips, what the heck is that? Well, I agree, but this is the way the kit's.
Here, do you want me to put that one in that I have?
See how that worked, guys? If you've been married, you understand.
Been married. For like 2 days.
The answer would have been no had I have an opportunity to answer.
But you didn't.
But I didn't. All right, but it's okay. It's all right. She films for me and other good things. All right, so there it is. So 4 screws. These things are not going to hold up. I can already tell.
Why? They're just simple.
Yeah.
Not strong enough?
They'll break. 100% will. But you know what's nice about this? If they do break, they are a basic design. They're simple. The only thing I don't like about it is they're not quick release. You need a tool to do it. But it's not the end of the world either because you're going to need a tool to take off the nose gear. So this one, I'm guessing, is not 1.5. It's probably
a 0.5.
1.5. 1.5. Okay, so then you put this in, spring forward, spring back. Since the screw's coming into that side, you want to take that little flat and work it in. Okay, folks, so steerable nose gear. The gear does look nice, okay? And this one, for whatever reason, isn't quite as splayed out as it should be. You want to show them that real quick? In fact, I might want to fix it. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I do not like the way that looks. It looks dumb. So I need to bend that out. Do I need to get the welder for this?
Yeah, for sure.
If you guys haven't seen the welder yet, just wait longer. And by the way, thanks for being part of our little RC extravaganza here on Brian Phillips RC. We really enjoy making this content for you. If you want to help support us, you see this? This needs to splay out just a hair more. So I'm going to grab it here. Actually, I'm just going to not be lazy. You know what I'm going to do that's not lazy?
Lineman pliers?
Yeah, probably lineman pliers. I could also do a crescent.
Oh, yeah.
So what I need, I don't know, lineman pliers is not going to work. Needle nose pliers, no. Crescent wrench, yes. Sizable wrench. Okay, open it up. I'm going to bite all of the surfaces. I'm going to simulate the angle, and then I'm going to get in here and just pull it slightly, ever so slightly, okay? Okay, and then I'm going to go check it. That gave me a nice bend. It kept everything square. If I would have done it by hand, it probably would have looked like crap. How we looking?
Better, but...
Now that one looks like it's not splayed out, but it's okay. I think we're good enough now.
Okay.
Because it looked really bad before. Now it just looks like moderately cheap, but that's okay.
It's a lot more even now.
Tell me what you were really thinking. Do you remember last night when I made you help me straighten the frame on our golf cart?
That was super fun.
Do you guys want to know what it's like to be married to an amazing RC enthusiast, Brian Phillips RC?
It's
after dark.
Amazing.
You want to know what happens after dark here?
Oh, jeez.
Camera crew helps me straighten my frame.
Yeah.
That's all right. We only had one pickup truck involved and
one golf cart.
One
tractor.
And in between the pickup truck and the...
There were no black tire marks on the driveway.
None whatsoever.
Or oil spots.
None.
Or rust spots.
The golf cart was like up in the air. It was like one of these things where when you buy a golf cart and it's used, and then you realize the frame is bent, you're like, what?
And as hard as
it was just bent like this. So when you were driving, you'd be like steering, you just feel drunk all the time. And I mean, not that that's never happened, but it's like, it's a golf cart. You know, it's like I have my whole family on here.
But as hard as it was to bend, like how did they bend it?
I don't know. They must have crashed is probably what happened. I'm pretty sure it was a drunken crash.
Yeah.
Yes. But the truth is, we got it done. Okay, guys, here's your extra screws to expect. With FMS, you generally get one of each type, okay? Just put this over here. When
are we building that house of screws? Are we getting close?
Yeah, pretty quick. It's right around the corner. Okay, so we got landing gear. We got everything on with the exception of the actual linkages, which we already know they go here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and install them on the elevator servos or Televon servos. Now, the other thing that kind of annoys me about this plane is it's not just the flaperons. These could also be split out and you could do Televons, which means that you could act as an aileron and an elevator. So you could produce roll by having differential movement on the elevators or the stabilators. Well, they didn't give us that freedom because they did a Y cable that's now buried inside the middle of the airplane. Okay, so note to self, FMS, E-Flight, Horizon, whoever we're dealing with on a given plane. If there's an option that costs you nothing or like pennies, literally pennies, because you're talking about instead of a Y cable, you have a straight cable or a longer cable on your servo, then I think people's expectations are that you're going to take advantage. So if you run 4 cables up there, you've got one for the left aileron, one for the right aileron, one for the left Televon, one for the right Televon, and then you provide 2 Y cables, there's gonna be like 1 out of a million people will complain. But on the flip side, you're gonna get like probably 5 out of 6 people are gonna complain. So from our standpoint, why not just spend the extra 10 cents total on this model or whatever it costs for that extra length?
Right.
And if you have to pass that cost along to us as consumers, then that's fine. I'm pretty sure most of us would be willing to bear that
Would like
cost.
the option.
Because it's like, I want flapper-ons. That is a sweet looking plane though, I gotta say. It looks pretty awesome, even without the canopy. Okay, so the F-35, if you guys haven't seen it in an air show, it's pretty cool, pretty neat stuff. And there's several different variants of the F-35, of course. They don't indicate which one this is, but there's some that are VTOL and there's some that are not VTOL. And so that's one thing I don't know how to distinguish between those things. Because some of them have an apparatus that opens up here and it's kind of replaces the Harrier and all that. It's pretty cool. Okay, so the next choice is how we're gonna do wiring. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. Elevators, yep, I was beating them up over that, and truth is, I can actually get to that. Now, it would be a pain in the neck, admittedly, but we could do that. And then we have ailerons. Ailerons you're not getting to, not easily, okay? So to do flaperons, which would probably arguably be the more critical one, then you're gonna have to get in there. Now, the cool thing is about doing televons that will roll the plane and control pitch is that your flaperons become totally viable because you don't have to worry about losing roll authority because you're still gonna have it with televons. Now, that being said, sometimes these smaller, more basic planes don't need that control authority, but I still want to be the judge of that, okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about receivers because we're to that point again where we have to actually set up our receiver, okay? So this thing says aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder, gear, flap. Okay. Why are they talking about gear?
So we don't have two of those.
Yeah, okay.
That's just their standard.
I'm just gonna go ahead and put this over here.
Yeah, we're done with that. Except we'll need CG later, so don't throw it too far down the stairs.
I'll put it right there. Okay. So, in terms of control channels that we need an elevator minimum, we need an aileron minimum, we need a throttle minimum in no particular order, and we need a rudder, steerable nose gear. Okay, so that's 4 channels. Now, if you want to have a mode, there's no reflex in here, but if you're using a reflex, then you would have a mode if you want to be able to control on and off for the stabilizer and on and off for the auto leveling. So it's one channel, so it'd be like stabilizer on, stabilizer off, auto leveling and stabilizer on, okay? Now, we don't have a reflex in this, and that's okay, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up AS3X and safe. So AS3X and safe will easily fall in the envelope of 6 channels, okay? Because you can't even get a 4-channel. You can't even get a 4-channel with AS3X and safe. So what we're gonna probably look at is look inside there quick. I think we need to do a 630 on this one, hon. Don't you think?
I would think a 630 would be just fine.
Okay, so let's talk about the differences. So the 630 has it's got an internal antenna and it's an end pin, okay? The 631 is top pin and it's got the external antenna. This one's like $5 more, okay? This is gonna give you AS3X and safe and limited telemetry, and this one's gonna give you AS3X and safe and limited telemetry. The limited telemetry, it's called flyby telemetry because it's not quite the range of 637T, okay? 637T is gonna have a barometer and all sorts of up and down measurements for height, and it's also going to give you a pack voltage via a little micro pH connector that you have to wire back in. It's kind of a pain in the nuts. But the thing is, what you can do is with the 631 or the 630, 631 or the 630, you can actually swap out the Avian ESC or the Predator ESC for Avian, and then you don't give up any channel for thrust reverse, at least pluggables, although you have enough pluggables you could use one of them, wouldn't matter. Unless you wanted to do Telebon 1, Telebon 2, aileron 1, flaperon 1, flaperon 2, throttle. Mode can ride somewhere beyond 6. So it could be mode could be up here on 7. Thrust reverse could be on 8, 9, 10, any of them, okay? So, but in our case, we've got potential for Televon 1, Televon 2, aileron 1, aileron 2, throttle, thrust reverse.
Steerable nose gear.
Dang it. Okay. So the question becomes, do we do Televons? Because there's obviously no rudders on this. Now, if you want a rudder, one thing we've done that actually does generally work for yawing an aircraft like this is we will cut a piece of clear plastic. And you want to know where you can get that clear plastic from? From this. You can literally take and make a little rudder out of it. And it's surprisingly effective to help yaw the aircraft. A lot of times these super steep angled vertical stabilizers with rudders on them don't work very good in the RC environment. They just tend to roll the plane a lot, in my experience. And I think that's part of the reason why they separate them out. We have had that on other models. That's how we know. So 631 would be fine, but I think the 630 is a little bit cheaper and it's gonna be fine for this because it's a smaller plane. You're not gonna tend to get quite as far out as you might otherwise get. And then a 637T, if you guys don't know what the size difference would look like, it's like this, okay? So it's a considerably bigger receiver. And of course, it's quite a bit more money too. So I would say the 630 is a perfect fit for this application.
It is.
And if you guys are going with reflex, then what you can do is you can use the AR620, or you could even use a 410 if you know for sure you're not gonna wanna switch modes and stuff like that. Because you could set the mode and then just disconnect your channel. We show that in other videos.
You couldn't do thrust reverse though with the 410.
Elevator, ailerons, throttle, rudder. Yep. So you'd have to give something up. So you're not going to give up your steerable nose gear.
And some people don't care about thrust reverse.
No.
If you're landing on a real runway that's a mile long and like, I don't know, maybe you don't care. But that's not us.
I was trying to figure out where you were going with that.
We do not land on that. You have to get that staple out of there nicely so you can keep your plastic piece.
Well, we might be showing them how to make a rudder.
Oh.
So if you guys want to see the rudder, my only concern is I like to show these things as stock as possible. Now this is a plug and play, as you can see from plug and play right there.
Yes.
Plug and play means that you provide your own receiver and your own battery. So obviously we're providing our own receiver, and you also have to provide your own transmitter. So generally it's like your whole radio system. Whereas a bind and fly, you would just have to bind to your radio system and you'd be operating within the same environment like Spectrum and Spectrum. That's what bind and fly usually is. It's not always, but usually, okay? Let's pull this thing out. All right, so we have the receiver here, nice and small. It's got a bind button, you can see, in here. And to hook this up, it's pretty straightforward, but we do need to do a model first. I'm just literally racking my brain right now. Do I want to do Televons or not? Because I mean, it would not be that big a deal to do Televons. Because really, nowadays, when you set up AS3X and Safe, you pretty much just tell the system what you're using, and then it works.
Right.
And it's really nice. It did not used to be that way, by the way.
So
let's talk about the pros and cons. Pros, you're gonna have almost infinite roll authority. Cons, we've already got ailerons that are working fine, hypothetically. Pro, I'm just trying to think, I would rather have flaperons work with Televons. Because I feel like if you're doing flaperons, you need to do Televons. Right?
yeah.
And then your thrust reverse goes out the window.
I mean, we've kind of gotten in the habit of doing things stock.
Let's do
start
stock.
with.
Let's do stock. We'll let you guys see what it's like. If it flies like crap, then we'll make a decision.
Right.
Here's the problem, and this is what my camera crew is thinking of. We have done so much work to add things like spoilerons, flaperons,
yep.
all these things. And we get it all done, and then we're like, holy cow, that did not fly very good.
Right.
And it's just frustrating because it's like, why do I want to go through all this effort just to make it not fly any better?
So sometimes if you're not sure about a plane, it's worth
Just make it stock ones.
Yeah.
Because you can change it. It's not that hard to change.
if you're super happy with it. And
There's not that much cable management that's going to happen on
No.
this. Okay, so we've got 2 different axes we could kind of defer to.
You just said we were gonna do things the stock way.
No, I know, but this is stock, okay? Because they're gonna be getting this receiver. By the way, we have links to this receiver, and we'll link to the battery we chose, and then we'll link to the plane down in the video description below if you wanna help support Brian Phillips RC. It's one of the easiest and most effective ways to do it financially. If you wanna support us financially, but you don't wanna buy planes from the links, for whatever the reasons are, we also have Patreon, YouTube membership, super thanks, and PayPal. So those are the other 4 ways. But truthfully, we think the best thing is just buy a plane you like, because then everybody wins. I mean, if you're watching this channel, you like planes, or you wouldn't be watching this channel. Okay, so I'm gonna just cut this at an angle, go for the longest cut I can get, kind of make it pretty basic shape, triangular, cut off that sharp tip. Now I'm gonna take off this edge. It is nice to have it if you can keep that, because you'll get a little bit of strength from that nice edge. Oh, see, it cracked on me. Trying not to shoot this stuff all over. Okay, so then if you want to make this thing effective, I'm just going to trim this down. The way you make it effective is I usually like to get it so that it fits right in and around the landing gear. So it becomes like an extension of the landing gear, just like this. It's very, very basic stuff. It works very nicely. And we've done it so many times, it's like, I've lost count. I'm just gonna round the edge so it doesn't mar the finish as bad as it might. Now, there's a couple different ways you could do this. You could poke a hole and zip tie it through once you get that slid into your spring. You could melt this and have it wrap around. You could go up here, do the same thing. I kind of like the idea of it being here. I've got to cut just a little bit more relief on there. And I want to make it look clean when it's all said and done. Okay, so now I'm going to go up and then just go over a little bit. And then that's going to get me reach into the spring. Oh man, that thing is really stiff. If you're trying to stick something through and you need to make a gap, just don't stab yourself doing this, please.
No kidding.
I've done this before, by the way. It doesn't look like I have, but I've done it many times. I might need to use a knife, hon.
Something thinner? Or, yeah, an X-Acto knife?
Well,
You can't get that worked in there?
that's what I said too. I was like, good Lord. I thought it would go for sure. Because we have done this before, believe it or not. I'm not just making this up. We can try the X-Acto knife first. I'm just afraid if I break the blade, it might shoot into my balls. And I already got them lasered recently.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't know that, I had LASIK. It wasn't LASIK, it was PRK on this eye, which is a different type of laser surgery. I had LASIK twice. I had one, and then I had to touch it. Ooh, that's loose.
Scary.
Doesn't make you nervous at all, huh?
No, not at all. Oh.
I know. That's the way I feel too. How do you think I feel? I'm having to do it. Okay. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay, so I'm gonna go this way. I just don't want to damage the foam.
Yeah.
That's opening up. Oh, by the way, I'm not sure when you guys are seeing this video, but we're gonna be at Knoll, Joe Knoll.
Yeah, I'm sure I would think before we're there.
Huh?
They should see this before we're there.
So if you guys haven't ever met us in person, check us out. We'll be over there having a good old time. One of the best RC events in the country. In our opinion, of course, we've been to a few. And that's not to take anything away from other events, but we just think they do a really nice job there.
We'll be there we're flying in on Tuesday, so we'll be out there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and probably part of the day on Saturday.
Why are you trailing off
Of
like
2024.
Okay.
If you really don't know that Brian talks this much in person.
Hey,
you can
by
come
the
find
way,
out.
we appreciate you guys hitting us up if you have a plane that you want me to fly. Because we're flying in
Yeah.
on aircraft, and so it makes it extremely difficult to bring anything. And so
Just too far for us to drive.
yeah, we tried making it work and we just couldn't get it to work. Goodness gracious. I feel like this should be easier.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna pause. I'll show you when I get it, what I had to do. All right, trick of the day. I just released it so it came off. And then that gave me the ability to kind of get in there at a better angle. And there it is. See, it opened up right away then. And then you can just slide it in. It should be pretty easy stuff. Once it's slid in something like that, then you're gonna be able to manipulate the position exactly once you get it dropped in there. Okay. And again, this is not like meant to be some, you know, Primero rudder operation. I mean, you could put rudders on this plane if you wanted to. It would not be the end of the world. You've got the channel already used up on your transmitter.
True.
Okay. So now we'll just get that positioned down in there a little bit. And now you can see, there it is. Pretty simple stuff. It's not going to be seen from the ground much. And then the thing too is you might need to stiffen this just a hair by making a fold in it. And then when you give your input, you'll have a little bit of resilience. Like I'm going to fold it. See how I folded that? That fold will help give a little bit of resilience to your rudder. Okay. And the idea is you can't see it, so you're not going to know it's there except that we told you it was there. And then look, we even have more plastic to keep.
Oh, good. We're running low on garbage.
Yeah. So we'll just put that over here so we can take that down to the pile. Okay, guys, so that's how you can do that. If you choose to do that, great. If not, no big deal. No skin off my back. But the ticket to doing that was to pull the gear off with your 1.5 millimeter drive. All right, so the next step for us is to, we've already decided on the receiver. Now we just need to either set up a profile so we can get the receiver programmed, or we need to do something different. And I think that's where we're gonna start. Okay, so we can put this on its own 3 wheels. We can lay this out of the way. We probably will need that again. Now, in terms of radio setup, obviously we have to set up our NX10, so we have a profile, and the profile is basically gonna tell us where to land the wires, okay? So if you don't know where to land the wires, it's because you haven't set up a profile. And I know you're probably thinking, but Brian, I'm brand new to this. I don't know how to set up a profile, and that's why you're watching Brian Phillips RC. So we're gonna show you how to do it right now. Now this receiver is spatially aware, so we're also gonna show you how to set that up. And that's done through a thing called forward programming. And once it knows how it's positioned, then it can help correct for spatial corrections like artificial 3-axis stabilization, AS3X, and SAFE, which is sensor assisted flight envelope. And that's gonna help auto level the plane. Would you let go of the sticks? All right, so if you give me a second camera crew, I'm gonna turn this on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna turn on eventually. And the more models you get in here, the slower and laggier it gets when you first turn it on. Okay, so I'm gonna cancel and back these 2 buttons, scroll all the way down, add new model. Okay, so we're gonna make a new acro. An acro is an airplane, basically. Okay, then I'm gonna go to create. Takes a few seconds. We are about ready to run out of model memory. Mm-hmm. It's literally gonna happen like any time. So once it happens, then I'm not sure what we're gonna do. We'll have to go in and delete maybe some of the old models.
We're fine where there's a few duplicates, I think.
We do have duplicates.
Because whatever our number says, we have more than that.
Well, it says 240 something, but then there's like 40 some odd before, so I'm not sure.
We have to get in row of those.
So model select, that's already done. Model type, it's already in acro. Model name, that's where we're gonna type it in. See, it says, oh, 206. No, that doesn't seem right.
That does not seem right.
Hold on, let me do this off camera.
Whoa.
Okay, so 206 is right. I said 240, but that was like total. Okay. So now model name, so we're gonna type in the name. So this is the F-35 V2 from FMS. So we're gonna type that in and come right back. All right, so we've got FMS F-35 V2 64 millimeters. Okay, don't forget the size class. You're gonna want that. Probably tell yourself, I'm not gonna have another F-35. Well, yeah, that's what they all say. Aircraft type, okay, so we have a normal wing and we have a normal tail actually. And then we can select an image from the standard file. We'll probably just do that, Jet. That's good enough. Well, except, hold on. We'll put the Habu is probably a bit closer match. Yeah, I like that, good enough. All right, so flight mode setup. We are gonna set up flight modes. We're gonna set it to switch D, and we're gonna hit back, and then we're gonna go spoken flight mode. And so this is gonna be our flight mode. Is going to be AS3X, then we're going to have off, then we're going to have safe. Okay, so we'll show you how to set that. And remember, this is just labeling. It's not actually changing the mode. So I'll type this in cancel, cancel, or That clears the verbiage, and then I can just type in AS3X and we'll come right back. Okay, so it says AS3X, then we'll do a spoken flight mode. We have to scroll all the way down. Okay, so AS3X mode. Okay, then we're gonna set this one to off, so we'll cancel, and then type the word off. Okay, so off, and then we'll make it say off. Again, you have to scroll down quite a bit, but not quite as far for this one. Okay, so you can see we're about here. Off. Okay, so then we'll set this one to safe. Sensor assisted flight envelope. Okay, SAFE, and then we'll go ahead and scroll down and bring up the audio event. All right, so safe. Now keep in mind that's just labeling, and it's going to show up on the main screen when you're flying, and then the audio events will happen based on your switch condition. So it's just a helper. And channel assign, I don't know if we're going to really mess with any of that yet. Okay, so then we're going to go into throttle cut. We're going to set that first over to switch H. I'm going to look down here in the monitor, make sure it's not working. It's not. Good. Meaning, when I move the throttle stick, there's nothing happening. Throttle cut's off. Now it does. Okay, throttle cut's back on. Good. Now you also see throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, gear, aux1, aux2, aux, and so on and so forth. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click. I'm going to scroll down to rates and expo. We already know what these are going to be, so I can go ahead and set them. This is my standard setup. It's going to be 5, then 10, then 20. We're going to start in the middle. We always do. And then if we need to make any changes, we can change them after we land. So at 20, I'm going to also drop rates to 90. Okay, so we start here. If we need a little bit more, we can have a doubling of the expo and a little bit less on the rates. And then we can have a halving if we want more touchy, more sensitive. Okay. And we're going to do that for all three: control, access, the primary at least. So it's going to be 5, 10, then 20. And if you don't like the way it flies, then you can go in there and kind of half or double to get back to the ground. And then you can make your adjustments accordingly. Okay, so pretty simple stuff. And then rudder, we'll set that all the way there. So 5, then 10, then 20. And at 20, we'll drop the rates down. And you're like, but that's the same thing. Why don't you just set it to different switches or something? Because I want one switch that's going to help me make a quick on-the-spot adjustment. So throttle cut set, rates are set. Timer needs to be set. I have no idea what type of time to expect, but I would say 5 is a good starting point. We're going to have a 1 out over 25% on the throttle stick. Clear's going to reset it. At 1 minute, I want a voice call out. At 20, I want nothing. At 10, I want a voice countdown. At expiration, I want tone and vibrate with a tone every minute thereafter. Keep in mind, we'll have the display that shows the number. Okay, so we're at the point now where I can scroll over to monitor mode and see where things get landed. So throttle's on channel 1, ailerons on channel 2, elevator on channel 3, rudder on channel 4, nothing beyond that. So then we can do what we want for thrust reverse. So in this case, I'm going to go back into system setup, disconnect RF. We know we're on gear, so I can go to channel assign. So instead of gear being attached to A, I want to put it over on switch G. That's where we consistently set our thrust reverse. And I can tell you it's probably in the wrong condition right now, and that's okay. So we'll do that through digital switch position, but we'll show you how to figure that out later, even though I already know what the settings are going to be, provided it works the way we expect. Okay, throttle cut's on. Okay, so I can go over here. So that's where we're going to land our thrust reverse. I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay, so we already talked about the spatial awareness of this receiver. So we have to talk about where we're going to put this at some point. And there's a million different ways to skin a cat on this. But I think what we're going to do is we're just going to plug them all in first. Deal with cable management and mounting kind of all at the same time. Okay. So how do we know what direction this plugs in? Well, there's a silk screen on the side here with a little lifted part. It says S plus and minus, so signal plus and minus, signal being up. So how do you know what signal is, Brian? Signal is a lighter color, ground is the darker color. So if you have black, the black would be down here and the white would be above, but red is always going to be in the middle. So if it's Futaba color code, then it would be black, red, and white, or excuse me, be white, red, and black. And then these ones are JR Hextronics color code. Okay. So throttle is going to go into channel 1. Now keep it.
That's ailerons.
Oh, ailerons? Mm-hmm. So it's going to go to channel 2, which is the third set of pins. Throttle is going to go into the first set of pins with black going down. There's your Hextronics. Nope, excuse me, your Futaba color code. Okay, so that's going to go into the first channel, not the first set of pins. Man, that's really loose. Why is it so dang loose? Did you feel that?
It looked weird when you plugged it in.
It's like I didn't get it in there or something. That feels better. I think I was between the pins. That's very weird. Okay, elevator.
It's going to be channel 3.
Channel 3, so now everything's upside down cattywampus because this cable's so short. So channel 3, okay, so orange is going up. And then the rudder is going to be channel 4. So the rudder is going to go under, I think. And we got the orange going up, so you can double check that. And then this is going to be our thrust reverse, so it just goes in the top pin of channel 5. And then nothing is done with channel 6 because we don't need it, okay? There's nothing actually getting plugged in there. So later, if you wanted to add in, you know, Televon support or whatever, you've got plenty of channels to do it. Or if you want to do flaperons rather, you could do that too, okay? Or a little bit of both, whatever you decide to do. Now, this has to be flat in order for us to use this surface, but that's pretty dang flat. I think we can actually live with that. I'm gonna, actually. Okay, now some people are gonna say use double-sided tape, and that's actually fine too, but I have learned from my personal experience using AS3X and Safe that you can just glue the thing in there most of the time too, okay? Now, you don't have to do it this way. If you're uncomfortable, go ahead and use a piece of 3M tape. I have 3M tape, I have it by the roll, and I have a lot of it. I'm still gonna do it this way. Here's why. A, laziness, and B, I've had good experience doing this, haven't had a single bit of problems with it. So where's the harm in doing something that works? Complaints, that's where it is. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this glue cook off for a minute, but I do wanna try to set it into its rough home position. And its rough home position is gonna be on or about right here. Now, why there? That's so close to where the battery is. Why do you want to tempt fate and make it harder to get in there and then potentially bump that button and have to deal with and interact with the canopy and all that? Well, the reason I like this spot is because A, I can get to the bind plug. B, I can see what's going on. C, it's flat down the length of the plane. Now, there is a correction factor and a correction factor when we get to that point. But I'd like not to depend on that, okay? So that's very critical if we have to depend on that correction. Sometimes we get wonky results at first. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and just, I cannot believe how good that's just chilling there. I kind of don't want to take it off of there. And by the way, cable management, like there is none.
Yeah,
like, it's just done.
Did it itself.
So I'm okay with the cable management because it really does look nice. We do have an air rudder on this, which is kind of nice. You're not supposed to have that, but we added it and it took us $0.00 worth of additional parts and about 2 minutes worth of effort. And it should work pretty good. Show the people at home how close that is for alignment. It's really good. And plus you can't see it, so there's really no harm in doing it. There's gonna be extremely low amount of additional drag from that. So now we're ready to bind. So binding is the process of teaching the electronics in here and the electronics in there. These are both transceivers because there is limited telemetry here going on, okay? They are a transmitter and a receiver. And so because of that, we have one other thing we gotta do, shelf liner. Before we get too excited, we gotta do shelf liner trick. So shelf liner, if you guys didn't already know, is a great way to help secure your batteries in the plane if you're not a big fan of using
Velcro.
Velcro or hook and loop.
Hook and loop.
So what I will do is I will see this little battery tray down here, and you're thinking, well, what's so hard about putting Velcro in there? Velcro is nice if you like Velcro on your batteries. I do not. And it looks like we may not even need to do that, because look how this is going to...
That's a really good fit.
Although it might have to go vertical because of the nature of the pack. It might be a little bit too thick on the end here. Or I can just let it bite the pack, which could be good too. Let's see if we can stuff it in there. Oh yeah, that's a really good fit. I hope that center of gravity is about right. But I mean, it does not get a whole lot better than that. Okay, so we'll still do the shelf liner trick just to show you how to do it, because it is very easy. And here on Brian Phillips RC, we're all about showing people how to do things. And the important part of this is that when you do it, you understand that all you're doing is creating a friction pad. See how easy that slides? See? So now, if I were to try that, especially once you get a little bit of pressure on there, it's incredible how hard that is to slide. See, it already picked it up. Now, the only drawback is you got to do a little bit of something to hold it in place so you don't have to constantly be taking it off the bottom of your plane. And so in this case, I'm just gonna do just a little bit of glue here, and I'm just gonna go like super light, hardly any. And I'm actually thinking the easiest way to do this is to probably just use my finger to spread that around, because of the nature of reaching in there. It's a little bit challenging.
And if your plane came with a piece of Velcro, we usually just Velcro.
Yeah, we
peel one sticky side off and just put it there. This one doesn't even have Velcro in it.
Yep, exactly. Which is weird. That's very unusual.
But it's really tight.
It's because it's got the pressure fit on it. Yep, they must have thought, hey, we don't need to include that because nobody is going to actually use the Velcro function.
I suppose.
And that makes sense because I'm not using it.
It's a pretty tight fit.
Okay, so by the way, if you buy a roll of this, you'll get about triple that. And it's enough to do like a kitchen worth of drawers.
Oh yeah.
And it costs about 10 bucks. And yes, we do actually link to these things so you don't have to find them necessarily. All right, so now that that glue has set up for, let's call it 15 seconds, we'll go ahead and take this curl down. We'll slide this in here. Now, part of the reason we show the painstaking process of installing components on these airplanes, it's not because we want to listen to ourselves talk, although I know some of you think that. The truth is, we know a lot of you need help, and that's why we do it. So we hope that we have helped you in some small part getting the plane this far along. We're not done, we're almost done. When you watch our videos, my suggestion, if you're brand new to the hobby, watch all the way through. Learn as much as you can, and then occasionally watch one as a refresher. But the truth is, once you watch 6 or 7 of these videos and you follow along, you're pretty much gonna know how to do it. You won't even need to watch our videos. So we're pretty much just like building in an equation that cuts us right out of the equation. So think of us when you're a skilled pilot, and if you remember us, that'll be really cool, and we appreciate you. And the way you can do that is just buy these planes from the links in the video description below. That is the #1 way you can financially support Brian Phillips RC. Okay. Oh yeah, you can watch the videos too, of course, but that's really of less consequence, truthfully. All right, so now that we have that installed, that's the way the battery is going to look. Now, we haven't marked CG, but we're not going to worry about that just quite yet. We usually do that at the very end, okay? So we will talk about that. Now, let's see if the receiver is moving, because this is a critical time. The receiver is pretty much there. I don't think it's going to move much. If it moves much, it's going to be of an extremely minor incidental amount, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and be prepared to bind. There's 2 ways to do that. We can turn off the system, and while powering, we can press and hold the I button, okay? Or we can click and scroll down to bind, and then we can disconnect RF and be prepared. So I'm going to click that here in a second. So all I have to do to plug this in is just do that. And you're like, but that's the wrong type of connector. Nope, it will work. And it timed out as usual. This one's just being a real pain in the neck because I said it will work. Okay, so it's plugged in. You'll notice nothing's happening otherwise. There's nothing flashing here. Don't worry, it's not dead. Press and hold the bind button. You see the Virgin flash. It's ready to bind. Click bind, disconnect RF, approve the, okay. let everything initiate. Now it's auto configuring the telemetry. And now we're back out. So obviously at this point, we can go ahead and cover this up and not never to be opened again, but at least for now, you can see what the plane looks like. It looks pretty dang sweet, I must say. Very clean, reasonably easy install. If I wouldn't have poked my rod into the wrong hole, then this would have been even easier. Okay, so first things first, we have no elevators hooked up. Ailerons are reversed and the rudders go in the right direction. So first things first, servo setup, travel, reverse. Ailerons need to be reversed. Roll left, roll right. Okay, so when I move the stick this way, that goes down, pushing that wing up. This one goes up, pushing that wing down. So you get a roll like this, roll like that. Elevator up, elevator down. That is happening to go the right direction, but I don't have the linkage attached yet. And they're both going in the right direction. They're going the same direction, okay? Now, how do I tell if my rudder's working right? Correct and correct. Okay, so we're good there. And then throttle, we're not gonna worry about just quite yet because we don't care yet. So my next move is to grab this so we can flip the plane over on its belly or on its back. It's already on its belly. And we can get the linkages for the rods on the elevator hooked up. Now, we don't have AS3X and safe to worry about, but if we had flaps turned on, we'd want to be careful not to actually actuate the flaps because there might be an elevator correction at this point. So you want to be careful that these things are getting mounted at the right time, okay? So now, first thing I'm noticing is the angle of this. That angle looks terrible from the Z-bend. Same thing here, it's pulling in. That's going to create pressure on this. I don't like that because it's going to twist this linkage as it actuates. I wonder if we can go the other way, if that would help. We're just going to try this. Okay, so let's see if I can get that in there. Ow, God bless it. Well, I got to say, I can't necessarily say that that's a whole lot better.
Just the cat fights. Yeah, it doesn't seem...
It does seem to kind of go that direction a little better.
Okay.
See, this one's just so drastically off. Okay, so we're gonna try going this way. Try not to stab myself. If you guys have trouble getting these in, I'm gonna show you the other trick of the day. The other trick of the day should be done with the glue, by the way, so I'm gonna put that away. You can take needle nose pliers and you can guide them through, but it doesn't always, you know, mean it's gonna be easy. Okay. Grab the edge of the hole. I already know it'll fit. Oh, good Lord. Man, that is just being a real pain in the neck. There it goes. So now it's popped through. And there it is. So it's all the way through now. And I gotta say, that angle is dramatically better. See?
Yeah, it is better.
And we might need the elevator. We might need this for the control arms or the control.
Yeah, because you're going to have to go in quite a bit.
So we can take this little piece of fuel tube back. Now be careful. Sometimes these like to break off when you snap them in. Oh, we're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 turns. How do I know how many turns? 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, just guess. 23, 24, 25. Why am I counting out loud? Look at this, guys. I'm almost off of the threaded portion of the rod. Okay?
Yeesh.
I know. If that happens and you have to like actually eliminate part of it, that can be a bit of an issue. Now, I want to center this on here, and then I want that to line up perfectly. So I need to go in further. You see that? Mm-hmm. That tip needs to be screwed in one more turn. Ugh. That's like a lot. There's one more. Okay, so that lines up pretty good there. One more half. Okay, there's one more half, and that's dang near perfect. That's gonna put me right in the center of the fuse. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my fingernails and pop that open. And that little head likes to break off of the little plastic wiener thing. So the plastic wiener thing goes through and snaps in. That's the technical term, the wiener thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, that's so sweet looking. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same thing over here. And obviously I'm gonna move this out of the way and just kind of exercise this a few times. Make sure we don't have any movement. We don't, good. So now this needs to go way in. So we're gonna go the same number of turns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so that's about where we were. Now, show the people over here what I'm doing. See this? There's a seam in the middle of this. I'm lining up the seam with the pointed part of that. And I am like half a turn, maybe more. And then I want to turn it. Nope, I want to go another half turn, see how it looks. Oh yeah, that's pretty dang perfect. Nope, I'm up too high. I got to come out half a turn. Half a more. Whoops, did I go the wrong way?
Yeah, I think you went the wrong way on that one.
Okay, so I went to, yeah, there we go. That's pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to take the wiener thing and pull it apart and slide it through. And then just snap that in and then pull the fuel hose down to the end. I'm actually going to take my pliers, just give that a little half twist again, just to square it up so that it's even with this, because this is not flat, it's at an angle. Same thing with both of those controls. Now let's check for movement. Elevator up, elevator down, elevator up, elevator down. Okay, pretty sweet. Now I'm gonna flip it back over. By the way, this would be a good time to double check your wires are pushed down into their pockets. Make sure you didn't miss any. Make sure you don't have a bunch of glue sticking out. Ooh, look right here. See that glue? Show the people. Give them a close-up, an extreme close-up of the dirty.
Of the glue grossness? Yeah.
Now watch. That's had a chance to set up for some time now. So I'm just coming back with that, and look how easy that was, folks. Totally perfectamundo. Peeled it right off.
Nice.
Okay, so as you can see, we went from the box to almost in the air. This is where we would stop if we weren't doing stabilization and auto leveling, but we always do that because it's one of the biggest features. And by the way, I gotta say, this thing is light on its feet. So very light, okay? Lay it down, elevator up, elevator down. Roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. Now, thrust reverse, we haven't tested yet. We're about to do it right now. How do we test thrust reverse? First of all, we have to actually run the throttle, and we want thrust reverse set up before we go ahead and commit ourselves to any sort of AS3X or safe. And the reason we do is just because the order we're gonna set it up on this model. There's nothing really magical about that. But if we have to change a channel, okay, I'm just double checking. That's pointed just slightly above the line. And that's pretty much at the line. Do you want to show the people a close-up? See, this left one is right at that seam. And this one is above the seam.
Slightly
we need
above.
to fix that. Camera crew, would you grab that and throw that back over here? Yeah, that's right. We screwed up. We're gonna have to undo this. So if you realize you've screwed up, just slide the fuel hose back. Get in here with your fingernails. Okay, pop that free. And then we were up, so we need to go down a little bit. So that means we need to pull out. So there's 1, 2 turns. Let's see how that looks. And that's pretty close. I don't know, I could go half a turn more.
Maybe. This one's like right at the line.
Oh yeah, that's right at the line.
Okay.
Show the people.
We got about 15 minutes left.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay guys,
I'm gonna take the...
the more stuff you get worked out here, the better your plane is gonna perform on your maiden. Remember, maiden flights where people lose planes because they try to cut a corner here or there and then they pay the price. Okay, don't pay the price. All right, elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. How many times have we checked that? Like 4 or 5 times. That's probably about 1 or 2 times too few. All right, now, throttle cut is off. Don't get cut. Forward thrust. Sounds great. That does. Throttle cuts on, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and flip this switch toward me, And I'm actually gonna hold this in a different spot so I don't get cut, because it is right on the end. Throttle cuts off. Forward thrust, reverse thrust, reverse thrust. Throttle holds on. Okay, so that's good. So we know it's working. And so I'm gonna go to monitor by scrolling over one, and I can tell that my gear switch, which is attached to G in this case instead of A like normal, that one is at plus 100 is minus thrust or reverse thrust, okay? So I wanna go into digital switch setup because I would like to change switch G so that this is up here and that's here and here, okay? So this one's gonna be minus 100. Now how do we know? Because we already tested to see what condition reverse thrust is and forward thrust is, okay? So this is gonna be forward thrust and I want my switch forward for forward thrust. Then this switch is gonna be plus 100, that's gonna be reverse thrust, and we're gonna make this one controllable. Okay, and then this one's gonna be also forward thrust, and we're gonna probably do pilot fatigue on here.
Reverse thrust.
Yep. Did I say?
You said forward thrust.
I'm sorry, guys. So forward thrust, reverse thrust, and we're gonna set up pilot fatigue where full throttle goes no matter what you do with your sticks, notwithstanding throttle cut. Throttle cut will stop that from working, and we'll show you how to do that right now. So backing out, so throttle hold is off. I'm gonna hold this in a safe way between the landing gear. There's our forward thrust, as you can hear from my mic. Reverse thrust, look forward, you see the paper towels moving? And then still forward thrust and still only controllable, okay? There's forward thrust. You'll notice there is a linger between the two steps. Don't be surprised, and you could lose a plane from that. I have too, okay? Throttle cuts on. So to do the mixing for that, we're gonna set up a mix. The mix is gonna be normal. It's gonna be, we can do the switch conditions. We can do gear, or not gear. We can do either gear or we can do switch G, okay? So in this case, I'll do switch G, and we're gonna tie switch G to throttle, but it's only gonna be attached when switch G is here, okay? I'm gonna have it off and off, okay? So it's only, the tie is only in that position. The rate is gonna be, now I need to hold this thing, and I need to say the rate is, I never know which way it is. There's an offset one way or the other, and I gotta have a value in both of these so I can start walking it up. Okay, so I'm gonna go backward. Nope. So all I'm doing, I'm just going until the throttle starts moving, right? Oh, throttle cuts on. That's why this isn't working yet. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay, so you see the paper towels moving? Okay, so obviously the offset. So we want the offset negative. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna set this to 100. We'll set the offset. Throttle cuts on. Throttle cuts off. Regardless of stick position. Controllable, no mix. Forward thrust, no mix. Pilot. Okay, so we've got that down. Did you guys see what happened? I was in reverse thrust and it still did forward thrust. Okay, so I'm gonna walk out and we'll see what happens. So we should have throttle cut off. Okay, forward thrust, now reverse thrust, now pilot fatigue. Then forward thrust. Even if it's all the way off, like you just touched down, full thrust, reverse. Okay, throttle cuts on. Now that I'm deaf, that's got all the safety features tied into it. So now all we need to do is clear our timer and we can go down to forward programming and set up AS3X and safe. Gyro settings, first time set up. We have everything set. We're gonna continue. Then we're gonna set it on its nose so it can figure out its spatial awareness, so it knows what position it's mounted in. Man, that really hurt my ears. Jeez, that was loud. Yep, that looks right to me. And then a gain channel, apply. Okay, so we need to set up a gain channel. The gain channel is gonna be the right knob, so it looks like aux 3. So in this case, I'll just go to aux 3 because that one was opened. And we can apply. 1 dance. 2 dances when you get safe turned on. Okay, so now it's rebooting. We're gonna go back in. We're gonna go to gyro settings, AS3X settings. We're gonna change this to 4 times. That's gonna mean we see the most movement. Okay, AS3X gains. We want those all adjustable. So we're gonna go to flight mode setup. Okay, so flight mode 1, see it's not changing. So flight mode channel needs to be assigned. We set it to switch D, so aux 1. Whoops, we disconnected. Okay, so FM channel, switch D, next. See, now it's changing, okay? So in this channel, I want AS3X active. On this channel, I want it off. And then on this, I also want it active. That's gonna be safe as well. Okay, so now we can hit back. Now we can go to system setup. We can go to gain channel select, aux 3. Yep, that's correct. That would say a number if it wasn't adjustable, okay? All right, so now we can go to, oh, by the way, if you ever make a change to one of your servo setups, you can do relearn servo settings, or you can go all the way back to your first time setup. And that would be under system setup, and then under utilities. No, that's not what it is. That's under...
You just go to AS3X settings.
AS3X settings, yeah. Because there's like a way to reset everything. It'd be other settings. There we go, factory reset, okay? Then you just start from scratch. I'm gonna go back into forward programming though, gyro settings, and we're gonna do first time safe setup. Okay, so we're gonna continue here. The flight mode's already been set, so I want safe to be operating in this position. Now it's going to check to see if there's a disparity, and there is a little bit of a pitch disparity there, okay? Okay, so in this mode, I want safe to be self-level with angle demand. In this, I want it off. In this, I want it off, okay? So in this, you can change your limits. So pitch down, I'm gonna open that up to like 60. You can really pitch down, you could really pitch up. That's one of the things I'm not crazy about with safe is it limits you too much and then you end up crashing into stuff. And then we're gonna apply. Now watch, 2 dances. 2, okay? Once you have 2, you know safe is active. Doesn't mean it's on, but it means it's active. Now, watch this. We should be in safe right now. So even without having given throttle, this thing should try to level the aircraft. Look at the ailerons. Quickest route to level. See? Quickest route to level. Now look at the elevator. Flip it upside down. Look, that elevator's pointed up. That elevator's pointed down. It's trying to bring you to a level attitude. Pretty cool, huh? So now we know safe is working. Now let's check and see if that turns off when I flip the switch, okay? So look at the ailerons. I'm gonna go to the middle, off. It goes off. Now when I put to AS3X, I don't hear anything because it only activates after 25% throttle out the first time. I'm not in pilot fatigue. There's 25, 30, 40, 50% throttle cuts back on, and now we should see it move. Yep, so the rudder's moving. But when I say the rudder's moving, it's really hard to tell because it's hard to see on the nose gear. Up on the aileron, down on the aileron, up on the aileron. Here, I'm gonna turn my knob all the way up on right knob. Now watch this, that'll go up when I lift the wing, up, now down. Now this one, up, now down. Now elevator up, elevator down. Elevator up, elevator down. Try to resist the impact of the environment. Now for rudder, I'm gonna pivot on the wheels, and this is gonna always look backward, but it's not. See, it's trying to resist the movement. See, it's gonna turn this way if I move the nose that way. Okay, so when I move the nose to my right, the wheel will turn left, turning right, turning left, perfect. So all 3 axes are working. So now that that's done, I'm gonna jump back into forward programming. I'm gonna go to AS3X. I'm gonna go to AS3X settings. I'm gonna change the gain from 4 down to 1, and I'm gonna walk out. Now why? Because it's easier to see the movement with 4X than it is with 1X. You might need more. If you do, put it back. Trust me, you wanna start from 1. Most of the planes are gonna take 1X, and you're gonna be like 50%, if not a little bit more. My goal is to have that about 50%, so when I go from plane to plane to plane to plane, I don't have to mess with it. But if it's super windy, I can kick it up. If it's super calm, I can kick it down. Throttle cuts on. This plane's ready to fly, except for center of gravity. That's our last test. The camera crew was talking about time here a second ago. Are we about ready to run out or what?
We got probably a little bit less than 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay, cool. So guys, thanks for staying tuned with us. This is Brian Phillips, RC. If it's the first time you've been to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We're glad you decided to do that. Hopefully we've answered all your questions, got you invigorated to try this. RC is hard. We'll help get you in the air. If anybody tells you it's easy, it's because they've forgotten how hard it was at the beginning. We have not.
Mm-hmm. So 93 to 98, and they're measuring from right where the wing actually starts. 93
to 98. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 98, I've got that first. So 98 is like right here. Okay, so I just come right in here, make my mark, and then 93. Remember, this is not an exact thing, because to be honest with you, you're not gonna be able to mark that one, which is too bad. Because it is right on plastic. Dang it. I should have picked a different spot. So there's one spot and there's the other spot. So I'm gonna just do one out here where I can plug into the foam a little bit better. Now, the reason that I make these marks the way I do with a big felt tipped marker is because I like to be able to feel that detent that I've created. And I've done it a bunch of different ways throughout my little RC experience here for about a decade. And you could do it a bunch of different ways too. Put a piece of tape on there, put a little bit of CA and just let it dry. You can put a drip of hot glue. Some people use push pins. Some people buy stuff. It just depends on how big the plane is and how hard it is to put your fingers on this. Now, I'm gonna put my finger right between those two marks. And we're nose heavy right now, okay? So if I put my finger on the front two marks, we are still nose heavy. And if I put it on the back, we're still nose heavy. So what that means is we have to try to get this battery either lightened up or slipped back. So in this case, very difficult to slide back because we have all that shelf liner in there. Okay, so I'm gonna just lift this up and try to slip that battery back. So I pulled that quite a bit back. That should get us close to what we need, okay? So I've got this gap here. That's gonna help us get our center of gravity right where we want, we hope. I don't know if that's enough though. Okay, now I'm on the front hole and we are tail heavy now on the front hole. And then in the middle, we're about perfect. And on the back hole, we're nose heavy. So that means we're good to go. And I'll show you that one more time. 2200 3S pushed back to the back of the cabinet there is gonna get you pretty much spot on if you're using the recommended battery from our video. So that's right here to right here, 2200 3S 30C, okay? Make sense? And then I like to draw an arrow to indicate what direction the wires come out. Okay, now the other thing is I might mark it down here because it's so far away. So guys, hopefully we answered all your questions. This is a battery we're using. Of course, you may want to pick a different one. Now, the other thing we found, if our battery doesn't die, is that we can sometimes get away with 4S batteries on ESCs that they provide from FMS. But you got to do that at your own discretion. So if we decide to do that to make this thing maybe get a little bit livened up, just keep in mind, you may also catch it on fire. And if you catch it on fire, that's all part of the fun. And then you know you wanted to liven it up. And so you'll know there was a reason to do it.
And you got to get a 4S battery in there.
A 4S battery will fit in here, no problem, but getting the center of gravity might be a little bit challenging. Although you can carve that foam pretty easy.
Sure.
So, all right, guys, hopefully we answered all your questions on this F-35 V2 from FMS. We love putting these videos together. We hope we answered all your questions and we helped you get from the chair to the air on Brian Phillips RC. That's what we try to do. We aim to bring people back to the hobby that have gotten out of the hobby because it was too complicated, too expensive, too hard, whatever. Maybe too busy in your personal life. You have hiatus because of a health issue or because of a family issue. We're here to help get you started back up. Or if you're brand new to the hobby and you just don't know what you're doing, we'll get you there, but you got to watch a couple videos. It is not an overnight thing. It does take years to get good. And the thing is, it's extremely rewarding. It's one of the most immersive RC experiences you can have. And so I can't say enough about it. And I've done it all. I've done cars, boats, trucks, submarines, radio controlled airplanes, birds, helicopters, VTOLs, quads, you name it. I've pretty much flown them. Now that being said, there's still some more stuff that I'd like to do. And I love flying new ones too all the time. And we do constantly. I mean, if you look in our room here, this is just one room. You should see our basement if you think this is bad. You should see our two 40-foot containers if you think this is bad. So guys, we got a lot of airplanes and I love doing it for you right here on Brian Phillips RC. So if you haven't already heard it before, you're hearing it right now. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for buying from the links in the video description below. Number one way to financially support Brian Phillips RC is buy planes that you like. If you don't like this plane, we're not trying to talk you into it. What we want you to do is just get a plane. Get a heli, get a quad, get a VTOL, get a leaf blower. Whatever it is we're reviewing, buy from the links. That helps us to encourage the relationships with these ecosystem of suppliers that make these amazing things. If they suck, we share it. If they're great, we share it. If I don't like it, we share it. If you might like it, even though I don't like it, we try our best to share that. But that is one of the toughest for me because I don't fake it well. Anyway, that's about it. We're really glad you stopped in today. And there is there's more right around the corner. That's what I was trying to say. So guys, stay tuned. More coming from Brian Phillips RC, and thanks for watching.